weeks and weeks of play have led to this moment.
Playoffs is back and we have some surprises in store for you.
Absolute chills.
Everybody's so low for our peak check. Cookie!
There's a reason that Cookie was touted as the best soldier in EMEA.
Saints play this beautifully. Bomb sticks mid-air!
You gotta have supreme confidence in yourself.
There is so much to fight for, and I am stoked to see how it's going to really pan out.
I love this when the fight is dire, when players recognize when they must make a play.
Oh my lord!
I am so damn excited.
This is absolutely spicy.
Only one team gets to come away from this alive.
Now it's about their name. It's about their legacy. Know when to take that risk. When to bet it all.
The Overwatch Contenders Summer Series playoffs continue right now.
Playoff Summer Series continues. It is the final match of this day one. There is so much ahead of us on these next couple of weeks, but the time is now where we get to see it's going to be, I think, a pretty good one between these two, Kenobi. Good Boys versus Amplified. Your predictions 1-2. Get it in. Make sure that you give us your insight, because the last one, you were right, chat.
We gotta give credit where it's due, and
I know.
I think this is a matchup where between these two teams, this is the losers bracket, so we will unfortunately be saying goodbye to another team in our playoffs. But I mean, if we're kind of trying to get as many map 5s as possible throughout the day, the last time these two teams played each other, it was a map 5 back in round 3, obviously, caveat. It was a very, very long time ago. So, you know, we can run it back just a little bit. You know, I was still 27 when that happened, and I'm 28 now, so you can kind of, like, you know, do the math yourself.
Happy belated birthday.
I mean, with the bracket and, like, what we're having here, you can see kind of how we've updated these teams and like what we've been through so far. 0-3 Splash beat Rift to get to the... I mean, the top half of the bracket looks absolutely nuts, by the way. Saints versus Wisp, banger. 0-3 Splash versus Pirates and Pajamas, probably also going to be a banger. And this Good Boys versus Amplify game, definitely, I mean, to me, feels like it could be very, very close.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, even when we looked at, you know, their seeding and how they were placed, they were still very close together. And going into this, I would expect nothing less. And again, with it also being losers bracket, it makes that competitiveness between the two of them amplified even that much more, because they are fighting for their lives to see who they're going to be facing off against afterwards. This is only one step among many up that towering challenge that is the championship of this summer series.
And I mean, as we go into this one and as we finally, you know, get everyone to the lobby, get the rosters ready, I think this is one where both these teams like started off really strong from what I remember. I think Good Boys was like towards the middle of the pack, and Amplify also was like surprising some people, and then they got really low. And then again, this is kind of what we had with the Rift situation, where like they had to really fight and claw their way into this playoff itself. So I think that's something that, again, we have to kind of look out for, as these teams really, I mean, had to claw their way into a moment like this, and they don't really want to let it go, right? I think these are two teams that are dark horses, I think, going forward.
Yep, really could be. And again, I've already said it. I just want to make sure that you get it. 1 and 2, right there. 1 and 2. Good Boys Amplified. Make sure you do that, as we're going to be seeing what that first map selection is going into this, as we, you know, we might get a chance to look at the rosters here. I believe we'll be having that in just a moment. But, I mean, again, I think we're going to be heading on to Lijiang Tower, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the curious things is going into that would be, do we potentially see that same type of methodology behind the breakup of where it's those two positions that we had initially when it comes to some of them? Or, like, is it going to be back to the Reinhardt, where we did see a significant play with that most recently and how it ended in the previous series?
Yeah, I think this is where we kind of see if there's going to be teams that are more like playing what they're comfortable with, or if they're going to be trending more towards something like the Orisa, right? Where we do see Orisa seems to have risen very heavily in priority, where on the other end, we've seen like some teams, like we just saw, I mean, with Afterlife, right? Iron just bringing out the Sigma and just kind of saying, this is something that I'm very good at, and I can pilot effectively in this meta, because again, it's not really a meta that's defined yet. There's a lot of time, I think, to figure out what exactly is going to be the key meta thing. And also, it is still very map dependent, right? That is the biggest thing, is that depending on what map and even sub map of like controls, right? It changes how compositions are viewed. The one kind of consistent has been Iliari, because she is so strong and so you know, the fact that you can get Captive Sun extremely quickly and it's a fight changer, like, that has kind of been the thing that's kept mostly towards everything as we've seen these compositions. BAP as well, I think, is another aspect that is very, very heavily slept on in these compositions. So we'll see if there is going to be any change between what these teams want to be playing. As we can look at the Good Boys roster, starting things off here. And Salty is someone who I'm actually interested in because Salty, very good Doomfist. I wondered if Doom has like any place in the meta. I would say no because of the fact that Orisa is so good, but also Salty's just insane at Doom. So if there would be a way to play Doom here, Salty would be the one to be able to figure it out.
Well, and you and I specifically have had, I think, like 3 or 4 occasions of where we get to specifically see Salty firsthand be able to play with such proficiency on this. So it'd be nice to see if it is able to show even more variety of what we already get to see. And that was something you were mentioning where there's, you know, map dependencies, specific, you know, sub maps. It's a real thrill to see such a wide variety coming into this. And with this, you know, group of individuals, we've seen them perform at such a high level as we can now take a look at their opponent, Amplify, and again, names that we are also very used to. I'm really looking forward to at least more so like PGE and TAP specifically in what they're going to bring to the table, because I know that we've seen them on several occasions really be able to take control of positional advantages and finding those necessary picks that can really turn a fight.
Yeah, TAP is someone who I think throughout their history and like Contenders has had those moments of like carry potential. No matter what roster TAP is on, TAP is always someone to be on the lookout for in terms of having incredible impact. And with like Sojourn being meta, I think Soldier also being meta, these are things that I think TAP is, you know, probably extremely good at. Sojourn in particular. PGE also I think deserves a lot of credit as well. So I think this roster of Amplify and this roster of Good Boys, it should be very close. I think this is definitely potentially repeatable of what we saw back in round 3, where this could go 5 maps and then we have a day where 4 out of the 6 series are all 5 map bangers.
It's just a day. It's a day of Overwatch. We want to give you some
tomorrow
drops.
For me in 3 minutes. So
I know, right? You having a late day. I'm about to get. I mean, guarantee you by the end of this, unless things go wildly one-sided, it's going to be heading into you know, at least tomorrow for me. But you'll be able to at least be a full hour ahead in the tomorrow.
And I mean, as we go into Lijiang Tower as our first map here, it's a map where we kind of do see like a lot of changes in terms of the submap that we're on, right, where it does have like, you know, control center, very Reinhardt favored a lot of the time, and then we go to those other 2 maps and you see a lot more of that openness in terms of the map and composition that we play. So I think this is a good kind of litmus test to see what both these teams are going to be playing on, what specific maps we're going to be seeing from them. But I think the other thing that we have to kind of look out for as well is that do we see any Lucio, right? Because I think in the previous series, we did see a little bit of Lucio without, and like Lucio BAP without Iliari. And I think it does have some viability, right? Iliari, I think to me, isn't like a must pick necessarily at the current moment. It could obviously change where it's like, hey, we go later on and like Iliari just is far and away the best, like, right? We just need Iliari in a lot of our compositions. But right now, where we're at, especially with like something like Reinhardt being viable, you kind of need Lucio. Like Lucio, I don't know, like people who play like ranked and play like Reinhardt on ranked, the feeling you have between having a Lucio and not having a Lucio is like 10 times dopamine, right? Like Ryan with Lucio just feels so much better.
Yeah, it's a feels bad moment without it. Absolutely. It's almost just like, I don't have a Lucio. Somebody want to go Lucio? No. All right. AFK. Kidding.
It still work. It's just very like it's like bro, playing with a Lucio, a good Lucio as a Reinhardt, feels like nothing else, right?
It's also playing against a good Lucio is a feels bad. Yeah. Like, oh man, I don't know what's worse, being without a Lucio or going against a Lucio that's really, really good.
Well, chat should tell us. Also,
chat should be able to tell us.
Also, tell us your predictions here. Oh,
please, we now have doors open. Please, Salty. Please, Salty. Please put the salt in the wound of your enemies. Go. Yes, let's go. Okay.
Okay, so this is interesting to me because Salty's going to be on the... I thought for a brief moment that we hyped up Salty so much and he was about to get speared off that bridge, but he had his cooldown back available to himself. That was a very scary moment for our caster cursing lives.
Yeah, you've already done it twice today. Third time's the charm as well. Getting locked into a wall by a Mei is not so fun either, because that was an instant opportunity to capitalize on it. And now Amplify is going to guarantee take this point, and Salty, which I would have thought maybe a swap, is actually still going to keep it. Nice rail shot comes in as well from White Room, and you'll see Good Boys look to recover.
A lot of spam here from this Good Boys composition. It's going to be interesting how they're going to follow up on the damage coming in from Salty, but really, I mean, this is really well played from Amplify. They are making the life miserable of Salty. They're even going to go on to the Sombra as well. You can see just how much Amplify is holding every single anti-Doomfist cooldown, right? They're holding Wall for Salty, they're holding Spear for Salty, they're probably going to be holding Hack for Salty as well. And if Salty dies first in all of these fights, there's no way for Good Boys to get in. It's just impossible.
Yeah. And Good Boys are really adamant about sticking onto this, not conforming to an alternative option. Oh no, Salty, okay. That was scary. Another moment where we have our breaths held as they fall back and look for...
Salty is like Saving Private Ryan, like Beaches in Normandy cosplay right now. Like he's trying to survive, hide behind any type of geometry.
The Javelin is basically at this point magnetized to Salty. The reposition up top, the duplicate onto the Orisa. That's a good decision, as Pascal also does the same, moving forward with the ultimate, attempting to see if there's enough damage for the Sunstruck to be sprung, but nobody's really going to be able to be hit by it, nor followed up onto it. And Afterlife is finally forced back, though, due to those ultimates that are being committed into this. Nice hack, at least onto Salty, but again, the damage is already done.
I mean, for Good Boys, like, this is at least it's not last fight territory for them, so if they lose this next fight, they still will get a chance to recontest into this one, but EMP is going to be coming up here for PGE relatively soon. We know Sombra has seen a dip in terms of priority, but still very effective with an ultimate like this. Good Boys, though, have some ability to negate the damage, right? You have Doomfist with the Meteor Strike, you also have a Nano that if Noctis is playing a little bit farther back, and throw that onto a member who might need some desperate healing at the end.
And Amplified can take a little bit of their time. Nano boost instantly into the back, goes for the combo. Will go for the Meteor Strike to completely elude as there is both supports blown to pieces.
You know, I was like maybe they'll like do something else and like use the Nano defensively. I forgot Salty's on the team. When Salty's on the team, very good target to just instantly use that Nano boost to work with. And I think it's a great decision, especially against the composition that Amplify is playing, where if you can find a way to go first and the Sombra can't set up an EMP, that's a great way to win a fight. As a nice anti comes up, won't manage to do too much here, as we're gonna be looking for that EMP. Oh!
Nice evasion by Salty.
Yeah, we'll call it nice evasion. We'll call it nice.
I'm trying to be positive here, bro. As you do see that there is an ultimate prop.
It was a zoning ult. It was a zoning ult. It was a zoning ult. Look, they still won the fight. The threat of the EMP really just shook them.
It was looming in the distance where nobody knew. I try, bro. I try.
Look, I appreciate you trying to look into positive in that one, but like, for Good Boys, it's going to be very hard to get into this fight. I mean, Tap is going to have this Blizzard relatively soon. Buddy's also going to have that Ant Matrix. Biz is down before that duplicate was available, so this looks completely doomed for Good Boys.
Amplification Matrix in the back, making sure that they have enough to get the damage and healing through the choke point. Blizzard onto the bridgeway. You shall not pass, as it denies entry with Salty and also Thunder in the back, but that's going to be Danny coming in hot because the Solar is on fire. It's basically like a solar flare. It just comes in magma waves at the planet, and that's what we're feeling right now. This cleanup should be very easy here for Amplify. Nice sustain through it. Immortality Field is going to be topped up, and, well, can they actually turn this about? Zeb and Tap get two. Biz being down is going to make this really hard. And no, the Meteor Strike doesn't land in time to keep it contested. It was a worthwhile attempt, though.
Yeah, it was close, but I mean, it felt like they really just took control of the round from the start, right? Especially with a lot of the anti-Doomfist stuff that they were running, saving those cooldowns. Like, even at the start, right where they see Salty come out, instantly, Zeb just javelins him off the side of the map and almost kills him, but then Salty has to get back on. You wait for your cooldown rotation. Salty goes back in. An immaculately placed wall from Tap is able to get him the kill, and then Salty has to come back in after the respawn, gets speared by Zeb, instantly killed. Like, that was just really good play from Amplify to negate the value of what Salty can do on this Doomfist, because we know that if Salty, like, is left to his own devices, Salty will farm any team.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And now as we go into the second round, It is a chance for Good Boys to bring this into the third. Salty waiting hesitantly to get topped up until he can re-enter onto this position. Though, having the pylon already stationary on the inner wall, it's going to give sustained throughput healing, but Salty's going to receive the same on the opposing side. Not yet looking to dive in onto this, waiting for that window of opportunity to go for the jump onto the back line, one-punch man style, but a javelin locks him into the wall. Still, patiently, point swapped, amplified, now generating a decent amount. There is the chance, but it's a one-for-one trade. Pascal going down is going to spell a little bit more disaster for this squad. Good Boys gets a nice potential knockback, doesn't quite die though. And re-entering into the Salty's doing some work, and they're putting so much into him to keep him alive. And now the reposition onto the flank. Can they continue to force them away? They're keeping them off the point. It's now a swap over, but PGE, along with the assistance from Buddy, who's saying bye-bye off the cliff.
I mean, Salty has been completely taking over this round so far right now. Actually, the Captive Sun comes out by the Iliar. Does Danny actually have an avenue to get any value from it? Doesn't look like it. Meteor Strike comes in. Thunder does end up going down, but Salty's still alive and actually punches. He punched someone with the sticky bombs into Tap, and Tap gets obliterated.
And now you can see them able to surpass the percentage and look now to hold this as Amplify's got to figure out a way to get in. Salty's gonna go major aggressive onto PGE, but gets shut down, and that's gonna be not so plentiful for them.
That was also a nano committed onto Salty, and it didn't get there in time to get the heals, so Good Boys use that ultimate and don't get the value, but here comes the duplicate from Biz.
Javelin into the corner. Biz needs to get this Terror Surge as quickly as possible since they're so clustered together, but they managed to force him out of it in time. The Terror Surge can't be developed quick enough. And pushing back, Tap now low, hit by the bio as well, so they can't get any healing. Oh, the knockback and the reposition with the damage for Danny gets the execution, and now they swap it back.
I mean, these fights are very scrappy, but what I'm worried about for Good Boy's sake is how much ultimates they used in a fight that they weren't able to win. Like, their macro is shot right now. I mean, yes, you're going to have Salty getting his ultimate relatively soon. You also have Overclock from Thunder, but look at what Amplify has. I mean, they have this Terror Surge, so anytime that Good Boys wants to try and get into this fight, Zeb can just walk into the backline, Terror Surge the backline, and it's going to be so hard for Good Boys to sustain.
And Zeb's rushing in, goes for the Javelin with the Overclock for 2. This is going to be extremely quick work of Good Boys. And again, Zeb moving forward, like you mentioned, didn't even need to use the Terror Surge and just got a great Javelin pin.
And that's the thing, I mean, with the Doomfist is there's not a lot of peel. You want to play a little bit more of that aggressive style, but you can't really peel for your backline. And with a support as immobile and as easy of a target as Ana, it's just so easy for Zeb to walk up, hit a spear, and just one-shot that poor grandma.
Nice engagement, though. Big shift of momentum again here with Salty going head first into Tap, just shutting him down, finding the second, almost even getting the third here along the wall, but it will be quick work. There it is. You know, give him the 3. That's fine.
And what I'm liking about kind of the change that we're seeing from Good Boys a little bit, the adaptations, they're really heavily focusing down Tap because they know that Wall is such an incredible ability against Salty on the Doomfist that if you can take down that Mei early in these fights, there's not going to be a lot to be able to hinder the Doomfist movement throughout the rest of those fights. And now ticking up with 70%, Salty also has the Meteor Strike, so has that get out of jail free card, but he gets absolutely obliterated.
And the swiftness that Salty has to find those picks really put Amplify on the back foot, but after they at least see the full committance of the ability rotation, they know that Salty is vulnerable. It was far too forward for them to be able to top them up fast enough. Zeb gets the denial onto Pascal with the spear spin as well, so that can't even be brought into the fight.
And now it's just desperation for Good Boys. Noctis is coming up towards that nano, definitely going to try and throw that one onto Salty if they can find a way to get back onto this one.
Keeping everybody topped up. Danny in the back. Not yet separated. Salty, nanoed, looks for the aggression forward potentially, but actually goes elsewhere. 2 picks come in, but it's still lighting up. Amplified in the kill feed. Salty knocks into the wall. Salty's still trying to be the MVP that we know they are. Left into the corner. There's no more healing. There's no more sustain. It's a team kill, and Amplify manages to take this first map of control.
Yeah, and I mean, if there are people in chat who are like, I want to know how to like beat Doomfists in ranked, well, just do what this team of Amplify did. Like, they really heavily hindered Salty, and it's like Salty had his moments, obviously, where he's popping off, getting the nanos and things like that. But this was a really, really good job from the entirety of this Amplify team to negate Salty's value from basically the start. The first 2 engages Salty had really didn't get a ton of value because they were just completely blocked off, and then there were those moments like I talked about with Salty getting some value, but once you have control on a map type like this, it's just so hard to come back from when you're at such a deficit and you give up so many percentages at the start. Especially
when it's against the Orisa, where you're so tanky, you're so fortified, you can draw these fights out for such an extensive period of time. And again, we're going to get some great highlights here because, I mean, we're talking 14 eliminations from Salty in this previous one. Like, the amount of contribution that Salty brings to this, yeah, I know. Like, he is substantial. But the problem is that if they can just get rid of him, reroute him, or deny him, then everything starts to crumble.
It's not even also deny him, because like what they did on this, the second submap was like, Zeb was like, oh, sick, you're playing like Ana? I'm walking at you and I'm just killing you, because guess what? I have a funny gold button that tells me that you don't get to sleep me. And like, what can you do? There's nothing an Ana can do against an Orisa walking up like walking up at like that, walking up at you like that, right? And if it's like one of your only primary sources of healing and ability to keep the Doomfist alive, because it's very hard for the Iliari to go in with the Doomfist because the meterage of her healing is so like short, right? It's not that big of range. I think it's like 15 meters, maybe.
It's either like 15 or 20 off the top.
Yeah, something relatively short range, right? So you have the Onyx kind of like be able to pocket the Doomfist from afar, but if there's a big Centaur robot walking at you, Salty's not going to live very long.
No, not at all. And even on those couple of engagements, like the one on a tap, like when you're completely eliminating somebody that fast, in a position that Salty was, they're able to back off. They're still getting topped up. They're getting healed and they're recovering. But the second time that we did see it onto Buddy, again, such a swift reaction. Like, they're not ready for it. But the problem is that when you go into that back doorway where you isolate yourself and you make that really small window of where the healers have to be to keep you going, that's when it's easily punishable. And because it was Buddy, there's also the Mei who can then slow you down, can put a wall up, can start to deviate away, and then things start to get a little bit more challenging for you, even though Salty gets that initial engagement and a massive pickup onto a support.
And we'll see. I mean, if the Doomfist continues, we are going to be going to the map of Numbani as our next one. So this is a map where it's like, hey, Doomfist does work. You can still have control of those high grounds, but it won't even matter because they're taking Salty out and they're going to be putting OWO into the matchup. So that's going to be something, or QWQ. Is that QWQ or OWO? Q. Okay.
Q.
My eyes.
I looked at it too, and I was like, "That's a Q."
I could have sworn that like little dash there was a Q, and I was going mental in my head. But QWQ is going to be coming into the lineup. The Diva is going to be something that like the Portrait has hovered over, which I think is definitely viable on a map like this, right? Especially with how many buffs Diva got recently, the ability to maneuver a little bit faster with the changes that she's had, I think, is something that we'll probably be seeing a little bit more of throughout the end of the year in Overwatch and just competitive play. But I think Winston is starting to really not show up as much, Rich. It's weird that we've spent kind of the last 9 months, I guess, going back to like Overwatch League Grand Finals meta where it was like Winston, right? And like now we're seeing he's kind of just not really being relevant anymore.
Yeah. And again, because I mean, of course, we all know that Orisa's, risen to power. We see her significantly, but it's more so the back-to-back patching, like that there has been such a significant focus specifically onto that. And now with the Diva adjustment, it's really refreshing to see such a wide variety come to the surface here after what we've seen for such
just say
not
time. Winston.
Not Winston. I mean, to be fair, we could say the same about Sombra. So, like, Sombra was, for an extended period of time, like, going into these last, time period, that it's been so dominant, and now the scarcity of it. I mean, you and I were even talking about before going on cast today. I'm just like, hey, there's no Sombra. This is kind of nice.
I feel like Lip kind of tricked an entire ecosystem of Overwatch to be like, Sombra's like really good.
Yeah,
you guys should also play it. And he's just like, I'm the best Sombra, and it's not really close. don't want to get into too many of those conversations because there's a lot of MVP discourse right now in Owl, and that's not something I want to get too much involved in. But we still have a series to play here between these two teams, Good Boy and Amplify, and we'll see if we see any changes going into this one. Obviously, with QWQ coming in, D.Va potentially coming in here as something that they could opt in for to control those high grounds. We've also seen like Sigma from Iron, so I think that this is also a map that's not really determined yet in terms of what is the best to play.
As we do see defensively, at least compositionally, from Good Boys. This one's gonna be fun, Kenobi. Thunder and Biz.
Dude, I wonder if it's gonna happen. I won't say it. I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking about here.
Yeah, you've already cast or cursed a couple of things. Don't put it into the universe.
Yeah, but this is I think something that we do have to kind of talk about is Bastion also got really heavily buffed.
Yeah,
Bastion
he did.
is very strong. We don't see it like a ton. I think it's very map dependent. Like I think Antarctic Peninsula, where we saw like the kind of trick room composition really start to come to fruition with the 3-2-1. That's something that I think we can see it a lot on. But we do have to remember Bastion did get pretty heavily buffed himself, and with a Iliari and a Baptiste, a lot of healing output is there onto the Bastion to keep him alive.
Yep. And also just really understanding how Amplify is going to enter in onto this point. With both of these catwalks, these high ground positions being taken, the Javelin does go across this way to potentially either get a knockdown or a pin, which would be vital, but you can see now, Thunda's gonna... Nice Javelin, looking for the swing, couldn't quite get it, but the second that you see Zeb play forward into the open, Thunda's gonna react and start Gatling gunning him to do.
Yeah, but Thunder didn't really get a lot of value with that turret form. Maybe just zoned, but the health bars are so low from Amplify. And without Danny and without Zeb, there's no way in for Amplify here. They're going to have to retreat, and Good Boys are going to be feeling pretty good, taking a minute off the clock already. I wonder how like Tap is going to be able to enter these fights, because Tap doesn't have a lot of help.
No.
Right? It is just a Baptiste and an Iliari, who are not heroes that I expect to really help out Echoes in the air like this. It's very difficult for them to do so Tap has to play a little bit more conservatively.
And we'll see whether or not that sticks for the whole time. Zeb rushing forward, but now you've seen the vulnerable Dragon Strike. Nice reposition. Such a quick reaction to make sure that they elude the Dragon Strike that comes through the wall. But down under, the sightlines have been very much denied. 2 picks already come through. Amplified gonna take full advantage of this. There is a possibility of recontention if they maneuver up through this back stairway, but there is a Zeb waiting in the wings. Tap though down. Could look for the re-engagement. Nice spear spin to mitigate. Also with the Javelin to again buy a significant amount of time here. Consistently denying the amount of throughput damage that they can get, and Zeb absolutely controls this doorway like Gandalf across the bridgeway with the Balrog.
Yeah, I mean, that is a you shall not pass moment if I've ever saw one, where Zeb is just standing there like, I dare you, the 4 squishies in there, to come onto this point, and there's no way they were going to be able to do so. And Good Boys, I mean, it was a really patient play from Amplify, and what I love what they did was they kind of just let PGE farm up until they got Dragon Strike, which is the biggest thing to knock. Even though the Dragon Strike didn't get kills, Dragon Strike is incredibly valuable in the fact that it makes people move. And it got them off of, it got Good Boys off of high ground, and that's all you need, right? If this composition from Good Boys doesn't have a semblance of high ground to work with on that defensive end, it just completely falls apart.
You can see a lot of distance being gained for now, playing very far forward Amplified, but again, Tap, as you mentioned, needs to be very careful so they don't get picked up quickly as Thunda peeks the corner now, generating that fire. Pascal does have the ultimate available to counter anything that can come through, keeping a watchful eye if anyone takes that flanking angle. You can see it active now. The reposition, Pascal going to commit theirs as well. Instantly onto Zeb. Can the damage proc in time? Neither side having casualties from the Sunstruck, but Tap does get stickies onto Thunda. It is a trade on this street, but Biz and the end of it all with a Molten Core and just consistent pressure gets the better end of this exchange.
Yeah, and Amplify actually used a couple of key ultimates in that fight that didn't manage to find really Pater. The duplicate onto the Sigma really just felt more of it was like a defensive thing than trying to really enter into that fight. So, unfortunately for Amplify, they aren't able to win that fight. But with an early pick onto Thunda, that's a lot of damage lost for Good Boys, and Biz is almost dead too.
You can see this fight between the tanks. QWQ having to leave, attempting with the shield to deny the damage is being overrun. And this will be a checkpoint reach here for Amplify onto Good Boys.
And this has really been PG's map here on this Hanzo. It is one of their signature picks, and I think that one of the things Good Boys didn't have in those couple of compositions that we saw from them is that ability to match at long range, right? Torbjorn, Bastion, even Sojourner, more of those like medium range DPS, you know what I mean? I saw that was a grade A mahogany log.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for you to say grade A mahogany. I'm not even gonna lie.
No way was he aiming for that.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. I actually gave you the breathing room because I thought you were gonna say mahogany log. That's why I didn't say anything. I knew it was coming.
I was like, I'm making this like point, and then I just see an arrow just fly across the map straight into the skull piece of Thunder. That's just unfortunate.
And now with 3 minutes to go, you see that Amplify has to tuck tail and run for the moment. You do have Good Boys looking to hold this choke point again, a very dominant defensive position. Danny, though, just in the back, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, doing whatever they want right now, and Zeb's gonna just trot forward freely as there is a absolute domination right now. Amplified playing this perfectly, and it's absolutely jarring to Good Boys in what to do, and they're not even going to be able to get back.
I mean, that is just, this has been an incredible performance from PGE. I mean, again, it's just taking what the opponent is giving you and just completely taking your advantages. I think the fact that PGE was like very patient a lot of the time with the way that he were playing. Yes, Amplify lose this fight very early, but they're like, it's fine for us because we know that eventually we're going to have Dragon Strike to be able to take them off high ground. Once we take them off high ground, this composition loses an insane amount of value that they would have had prior. And then from there, they just snowballed with how many picks PG was getting on the Hanzo, which I think is a pick that we might start seeing a lot during this meta, because I think that the fact that there's not like that many shields to play around and you need some like long-range pick potential, that's something that I think that we will start to see.
And we'll see if that continues over the course of this and development, as we do have quite a time bank here for Amplify.
Pascal spawned into Dragon there.
Probably. You know, hey,
that is one of the worst feelings, though, right? Like
you're just like, hey,
or like the Dragon Strike is just like going across the map, and then you just like you spawn.
Okay,
and then
let's not talk about that. That's the worst. I remember I think I was trying to type something to my team because they weren't in voice. And like I died because I was mid-typing, and I tried to like move with my keyboards, and I'm typing like W.
And you just like typed like a bunch of W, A's, and D's.
I was so mad about it, man. It was so rough. And then you press enter, and then everybody sees it, and you just hate life. But you know, that's me and my competitive games. All right.
Like, this is. I mean, it does have like the long range pick potential of the Hanzo, but it's very much like feast or famine, right? Where it's like if you need to be hitting shots, you have no semblance of utility beyond hitting headshots as a Widowmaker. So this feels like a heat check pick for PGE in this scenario.
All I do is hit dingers. As you can see, the couple of shots, but Thunder's gonna be the one to hit the dinger as you've got PGE back to spawn. And no longer is that going to bring any value to this. Amplify is being overrun right now. Thunder needs to be very cautious, though, because you can hear the turret damage on the stairway. Pascal has knowledge of where it is, so they remove it, so that gives a little bit more agency to Thunder. But the aggression from Zeb forcing back QWQ, the Javelin as well to keep distance. They actually hold on to this and don't give anything up for it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Thunder gets that pick early, but it doesn't really amount to anything. They don't, take away any crossfire angles there. Zeb is going very aggressive here. Actually going to get body blocked away. Wow. Buddy goes down too, and I think this is Amplify flying incredibly close to the sun and it burning off the wax wings.
And like them walking at Pascal, like they're that's the sun that's too close. Get it?
Oh,
the sun
Let's take a moment of silence for that one.
I know. We'll let that one.
No.
We'll let that one rest.
Moment of silence starting now for the death of that joke.
F's in the chat. As we do see that the Accretion's gonna come out and get a stun onto Zeb. There's the Amplification Matrix to return into this, pushing forward. Denies the pylon, so there's no additional healing outside of just the initial gun rifling from Danny. As Zeb goes down, though. Thunder gets enough pressure onto this and cleans up! Thunderstruck indeed!
Yeah, Thunder coming in really clutch. I mean, saying to PGE, essentially, anything you can do, I can do better. And I think now is where PGE, like, That's mean. That's mean, Biz. That was mean. Hammer killed. I think that's the first one of the season, so
yeah.
There's that. But I think like this is really where we need to see PGE, I think, needs to go to the Hanzo. I think you need to start matching this because PGE has hit like a couple of shots, but just has not been able to get the same value that was found on that Hanzo. I'm glad we got the third
Tuck
person
and roll!
to do that.
Tuck and roll off the cliff, Swede! 4 minutes now as we move through this streets phase, heading towards that second checkpoint. PGE, though, still gonna opt to go for the Widow, not taking your advice, so needing to make something happen with it, but Thunda, again, unchecked, getting another shutdown onto Buddy, and really just running this high ground.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real person besides PGE, realistically, who can fight Thunda in these angles, and also, it's going to be very difficult for PGE to find an angle to go through because you have this Sigma in QWQ just walking at PGE the entire time and putting a shield up.
Yeah, and there's nothing they can do. I mean, when you're looking at the opposing side, Zeb doesn't have a shield to really deny any of the shots that come in, and meanwhile, they're still focusing the front line of this engagement every time. QWQ swinging to the corner, wants the last few meters remaining. They just have to remove Zeb from this position, but still extremely tanky. Has, I believe, the fortification up in just a second to utilize defensively as the spear spin manages to gain some distance between the two of them, and that extra health on activation makes it so much more challenging to remove them, going from the 75 to 150, and Pascal in the corner assisting. Thunda finds another, and Good Boys are cleaning up.
Yeah, and I mean, this has just been really just the consistent damage output from Amplify, or from Good Boys, is really making the difference here. And I don't want to, like, I don't want to harp like too much on like a singular pick. Like in the last 15 seconds of that fight, PG didn't hit a shot. Like there was like the ultimate meter just didn't go up. And if you're Good Boys, you just have that consistent damage coming out time after time after time. And PG really needs to find a way to start getting some picks or just swap heroes completely.
Now, this corner, the final one to persevere through. All knowledge is given to Amplify since PGE did have the ultimate available, but now that it's dropped, there's a shot. That's the first. Okay, well, Thunder's gonna just still punish him anyways, even though the numbers advantage right now are starting to lean a little bit into favor of Amplify, but it's still only a 1-for-1 as you see everything fill the kill feed of the tank, the turret, the pylon. Overwhelming numbers now for Good Boys as they push into this. Zeb has to go for the Tarot Surge, clips Thunda on the dash, and Danny gets the pickup.
No. Thunda just, I mean, that's a little bit of a gift right there, and Amplify are going to be able to hold with, I think, really, I think, ballsy play from Zeb to even use that Terra Surge in that scenario because it didn't look like it was going to get a kill until Thunda dove into it. And now, this is kind of where the Widowmaker might start to pay off, right? Because you're at kind of this very defensible area where you know every angle that they could possibly come out from, and you can just hold it down, and you really have to work if you're Good Boys to get through it.
Yep, Dragon Strike gonna potentially dislodge some positioning. Zeb just moves forward outside of the flux, so the Orisa is still free to roam, managing not only the stairway, but up towards the payload to keep it contested. PGE eliminating the turret so they don't have to worry about it, and then follows up instantly with a beautiful headshot onto Pascal. This is that defensive position, as you mentioned it, and Amplified is holding it well.
And I mean, we'll see if there's a way for Good Boys to try and win this one. Doesn't look like there is, and I mean, the momentum that Good Boys had has been completely just taken away with this defensive end, or with this defensive play that we're seeing from them as good. PG finally starting to, I was going to say heat up, but doesn't end up going down. I mean, PG has started getting a couple more picks, which is what we needed to see from this Widowmaker to really start getting value. And with sights, like, I don't think you want to be able to peek. Yes, PG has not been as formidable on the Widowmaker as, you know, he was on something like the Hanzo, but you just don't want to peek into sights like this, and that's just more time taken off the clock, and we know that Good Boys have to finish with timer. It's only gonna be drawable for them.
Goes for the grapple reposition. Oh my goodness! Gets the shot in the ultimate. Denies the captive son. What a play from PGE.
Yeah, it feels like PGE just need to warm up a little bit, you know? Like, first 2 points, just throw them in the trash. You know, I can just, you know, the volume shooter. So we're seeing.
They weren't
PGE.
in the training. They weren't in the training round before this match. No,
they went to the hyperbolic time chamber. Just got a couple of, you know, licks in, and now they go in and they're starting to really put the pressure onto this Good Boys team. And with where the card is, Rich, I mean, this is... that was very, very...
Nice follow-up!
That was so... PG's just machine gunning forward here.
And getting healed through it, mind you! Oh my god! PGE has absolutely ascended, has fully ascended to Ultra Instinct right now, and has no fear with a hammer roaming Torbjorn play.
I've never seen a Widowmaker just walk like through a team fight like that, just completely with just like reckless abandon. Look how aggressive Amplify are being here, just holding down these sight lines. Thunda desperately goes over to the Widowmaker to try and offer a little bit of matchup. Tap does end up going down, so it's a 4v5 right now, but can anyone even get to this cart in time, Rich?
Seconds to go. You can hear the ultimate unleashed from Danny. Lands it. Will they get the proc? You don't even need the explosion. It's just a dome shot again between the eyes. PGE has been unleashed. And that will be Amplify, making it a 2-0 map score.
Yeah, I mean, I poo-pooed a little bit on the PGE Widowmaker on those first 2 points, but can't argue with 30 limbs, 18 final blows, and 5 deaths, honestly, and top damage in the lobby. That's something, the numbers do not lie in that regard, and Amplify, the numbers looking good for them, 2-0 right now, up against this team on the other side of Good Boys, and Boys gotta find a way back into this one, because Amplify are really strutting their stuff here.
Talking some poo-poo, and he's saying, no, I'm gonna throw some doo-doo. But I mean, again, it was really, really rough. Amplify in the tail end of it, able to come out, and realistically, I mean, Thunda makes some significant headway for them on multiple occasions, though, and like it just finally got stifled, and it's a lot of positional like dynamics to this, and also I think just really starting to, like you mentioned, just light up, like getting those couple of shots that were absolutely necessary.
This actually,
yeah.
I think, might have completely bonked their chances of like.
They're going to.
That replay, dude, come on, observers, y'all are mean.
We love you, observers. We love you.
Guys.
All those Tor players out there, the dirty Tor players that are in the chat. That's what happens to you, right?
I don't think we've ever on broadcast just put someone on blast like that.
Yo, observers woke up and chose violence.
So I love that.
Observers woke up and chose violence today.
I love that. That was great. But yeah, Amplify, I mean, coming in with the 2-0 lead, I think that this is a team that is firing on all cylinders right now. They had a little bit of a worry on like the first and second points. With Thunda like popping off as much as they did, but I think Amplify has a really good understanding of kind of how to play in this meta with those long range sightlines that they're having, especially when PG is playing so well. Zeb also I think deserves a lot of credit as well for being able to just basically be such a nuisance, not only in the front line, but also into the back line, right? Because we've seen Orysas who are very adept at just like rushing the back line and really making their lives miserable. And Zeb has been doing a great job of not only that, but also holding down the fort. We remember that like Gandalf do not pass type of thing, where just really, really abusing the fact that Orisa is so strong in her current state against squishies, and there's not much the shooty characters can do against Orisa if she hits her funny haha gold button. So I think as we go forward and as we kind of go into different maps, we'll see how the effectiveness changes for Good Boys and if there's going to be some adaptation in terms of what we see regarding the map picks or regarding the compositional swaps that we might see depending on the map we go to.
And we're going to take a funny haha moment to reflect on everything that just unfolded. So we're going to head to a short break, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we're going to see if it's going to be Amplify closing this out with a 3-0 or Good Boys is able to turn it around.
Oh, hello, Fancy Minnie you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife. Or your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage! Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Welcome back, my friends. We have had some spectacular shenanigans with this last match of the day, and we're hoping to have a plenty more. Kenobi, we're going to be heading into Watchpoint Gibraltar as our next match, and curious to see if Good Boys somehow are going to be able to hype up their britches and be able to trench through the mud.
You know, we're going to a match like Watchpoint Gibraltar where, I mean, we still have seen like the Sigma and the Orisa. It is also a map that does offer like the potential to play some more of those characters that do offer more high ground potential, I'll say. Like if Salty is going to come back into the lineup, which it looks like it is the case here. Salty's coming back into the lineup, maybe bring out the Doomfist. I think it could be good at like controlling high grounds here. You also could play Winston or Diva or something like that. So those are things that we kind of have to look out for, because it just feels like what Good Boys have worked with so far just hasn't been able to match up. I mean, Thunder has had like the one, like I think best moment that we saw from Good Boys was when Thunder really was able to pop off, and Salty had that moment where he was really able to pop off. But beyond that, it feels like Amplify just had a complete control of this game. I mean, if you want to look any further than just that last, I'll say minute or 2 minutes, where it felt like Amplify was just flexing a little bit and having a fun more so than anything else. So, I mean, going into this one, it is a little bit scary for the other side of Good Boys, because of the fact that this is do or die, and it's like, you know, losers bracket. So they need to win here, and they need to reverse if they want to be able to continue in this bracket.
And it's a tall task, and it all starts here. And yes, indeed, when it came to the tail end of that, it feels like the conversation we had with our interview, just vibing. That's literally what the Amplify was, just vibing.
I've never seen a Widowmaker frontline like PGE was. It's just absolutely in there, knowing that the heals were going to be there. Just got to have, you know, complete trust and faith in your teammates. So that's something that we can kind of talk about a little bit with this Amplify team. But for Good Boys, I mean, there have been those moments like I talked about where they've like had the ability to really take over. Like Thunder, when Thunder was able to get the space and not really be contested as hard, Thunder really, really wasn't impactful. It was just like when kind of he got that space taken away from him, it was really hard for Thunder to make that impact, especially when PGE was like matching him mano-a-mano. That was really one of the hardest parts, it looked like, for Thunder. But Thunder has had those moments where he has been able to pop off. As we do go into Gibraltar here as our next map, and I wonder if we just see the Orisa and the Sigma. I mean, that's something that is definitely a possibility, and I would kind of hate it because I like these maps when you use the high ground. I love like the mobility that this map provides, and when it's just like Orisa Sigma, I'm just like, okay, fine.
Well, you know, interesting thing. Remember how we always like to learn stuff, and I learned something today.
Okay,
and that fun fact is, did you know that the charm for a Sigma just jettisons out of his wrist bone?
Yeah, I think
had never noticed that until just now.
A lot of the like characters with like melee, well, like not really like traditional guns have that. Kiriko has it. I think Doom has it on his.
See, like I don't play them, so like I mean I get that, but like
I mean, you
I
only
just was
play
not.
Orisa, so.
Well, don't whatever. I play some other stuff.
You're an Orisa one trick. You play other things that are Orisa that aren't Orisa.
I've played Widow. I was a pretty good Widow. Pretty darn good Widow.
I don't
you
know
can
about
look at my profile at me.
I need some tape footage of that.
Oh, I'm gonna look for some old footage then, as we're gonna be getting into this.
Some footage.
Yeah, back when the game released, as we now have 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, were you playing against hard bots and?
Yo, you can't give me any more credit. You give me bot credit, really? Well, you know who needs to get credit? It's Zeb right now, getting that headshot here to take down Noctis on this defensive position, and you know, Salty's gonna come out onto the Doom.
We saw this in the previous series, though, is that like if there is an Ana on the other side, Orisa just walks at Ana and kills her. Like, it's very hard for Noctis. Noctis has to play super safe and like literally never be in a position where the Orisa can walk at her, and Zeb could always just play Gatekeeper because it's so hard for the Ana to walk forward. But actually, finally, Buddy does go down, and PGE goes down as well, so looks like actually Good Boys have broken this defense.
I mean, the biggest part of it is the synergy and communication on timing with Salty, Thunda, and Biz. And I think that's going to be a massive opportunity for them, because Salty makes such a headway with this Doomfist, but now with them being alongside of him, it's just devastating.
Yeah, I mean, if they're able to get these assassinations really quickly, they should be able to win. PGE is still on this Widowmaker, and I was skeptical of the Widowmaker before, and it didn't end up working out, but this is where I'm really worried about it.
Meteor Strike now looking to land on the back. Oh my goodness, Salty coming in hot. Ooh. Meteor Strike indeed. Oh my goodness, the tech to chase down PGE.
Okay, I was gonna be like, if Salty didn't get that kill, we were gonna have some problems, but Amplify here, I mean, completely on the back foot right now with Salty. I mean, the benefactor of a lot of value here. The thing is that like Amplify, they're all very diveable heroes. Like, they can insta-kill a lot of the defensive positions. Like, I mean, look at this. Like, Tap almost gets one shot, and that was just Salty on the dive, right? Biz wasn't there and Thunda wasn't there, so imagine if those two DPS were alongside that. That's an insta-kill, but Salty gets a little bit too over-aggressive, gets speared, and ends up going down. PGE should go down.
Hey, this is like a deja vu moment. Running?
Oh,
okay.
You hate to see it. Oh, you hate to see that too. You hate to see that too. Oh no, Tap.
Venom Mine, melee, hammer, everything in the kill feed is gold.
Oh my god. That's like a backbreaker. That's like when Bane just broke Batman's back, and it's like, oh well.
Rip,
I gotta climb
rip
up
Batman.
What does he have to? He has to climb up like the well or something, and then he does it.
Yeah.
He comes back, and then Tom Hardy says,
I was born
you.
in the darkness.
What breaks first, your mind or your body?
Or your
soul? I am reckoning.
We're just having fun. Now we're just having fun. As we're gonna be seeing 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and we get back again to the situation where these 4 doors to enter. Oh my god! Zeb is just saying, I'm coming at you no matter what you do. As the Dragon Blade going into this goes ahead, gets 2, but unfortunately the feet still touch the lava, and this is still Salty down below, getting distance on this. Nobody's really close enough to contest it, and he might just get it. Okay, there we go. But is Danny
the only one
for
here,
this world?
Danny's the only one here. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, thank God. Okay, Thank God that Zeb used gold there. That would have been so disastrous.
Well, you know, this is kind of descended into madness between these two teams. Nice eat, though, to remove Pascal's ultimate, so they don't get the captive son to work with. Just about 4 meters. Going to be continuing to increase in distance because Amplify is able to hold here and see how Good Boys are going to enter with 240.
Good Boys don't have any ultimates to work with, so they have to win this fight in the neutral, but here comes the captive son from Danny. Can it find any value? But he gets obliterated right even before the immortality field can come out.
Dead upon entry, basically. Stick now does not get the elimination. There is enough of the fortification to survive through it, so they can drop down below, regrouping the rest of the squad. Salty shutting down the Torbjorn is key, though, to also get rid of the turret. So it's really only those remaining into the corner. 3, specifically PGE, constantly being forced away onto this Tracer. Has to force the recall even earlier, so they don't really have it, and they have to play around that truck. As you can see now that they're finally able to turn this back. Beautiful immortality field as they go in for the dive.
You can see just how difficult it is for Thunder to find these kills. Every time, like, we were on Thunder's POV for so long there, and it felt like every single time that they got someone low, just instantly healed by, like, the immense amount of healing output that we're seeing from Buddy and from Danny with these two heroes. As, I mean, the hefty time bank that had started for Good Boys has now been dwindled down to 1 minute and 30 seconds, and with where the card is, Rich, this is, I mean, they'll get one for sure, but I don't even know what their chances are at a second fight here. It'll be very, very scrappy.
Yeah, there's so much poking and patience to see how they want to enter into this. A second fight is going to be very, very low probability here. Salty now finding a separation. Opts for the Meteor Strike to regroup back to the center in the ship. Attempts to go for the support line, but Buddy is still covered by the immortality field and is able to get the damage onto Salty before they can get it topped up.
Yeah, and now Good Boys have to retreat here. Their health bars are way too low, and they don't want to get any staggered kills, but I mean, they're not even going to be let out here, as Amplify are going to be chasing these kills. Biz goes down, and Salty spawns and just immediately dies to a spear and taps just raw damage from the front. And we talked about the probability being low of a second fight. They're going to get it here for Good Boys, but it is going to for sure be their last fight. And with the ultimates that Amplify have, I'd be worried if they're even going to get out of this area, but with tap going down, this might be an angle for Amplify or for Good Boys to take an advantage.
Yeah, they have to. That combo didn't land. Buddy just sidesteps the frontal, so they do not get bodied, but Pascal is there to assist. The time is now. The staggers are in. It's missing one support and solely reliant onto Danny. Good Boys gets another follow-up. They just have to maneuver into this. The Torbjorn lobbing the Molten Core around the payload to deny them getting to it, but it's far too forward. Salty keeping space, knocking them back.
Thunder.
Danny is down, and they will be able to reach this checkpoint with 1 minute 30 left.
And I think Amplify there maybe just going too over-aggressive and playing with their food just a hint. I think that they didn't need to go as aggressively there, and tap dying really early hurt their chances a lot, as, I mean, they're making a lot of key swaps here. Bringing the Zenyatta here on the defensive end. I mean, it's not bad to just sit kind of in this. Okay, it's going to be the Ana instead. I was going to say, like, Zenyatta
Bait and
could
switch.
work. It is hard. It would have been very difficult to pilot against this incoming dive, but Ana seems a little bit more of that self-survivability and self-sustain. This PG's on the Widowmaker here, and Good Boys don't have a lot to be able to deal with it.
Kitsune Rush, nice bio. Big Suzu to cleanse it so they don't have to worry about it. Pushing forward. With Danny now leading in, Captive Son. Is there any follow-up damage? There absolutely is onto Biz, and that will be a cleanup here to hold 34 seconds left now for Good Boys.
Yeah, last fight here for Good Boys. Thunder going over to the Widowmaker just to try and offer something to match Thunder here, or match PGE on the other side. Terra Surge going to be available for Zeb, so going into this fight is going to be difficult for Good Boys. Noctis actually making a desert swap over to the Zenyatta just to offer a little bit more of that upfront damage, throwing that Discord onto Zeb, but Good Boys really need to find a way in the neutral to win this fight through either Salty or through a volley from Noctis.
Salty pushing forward to try and harass PGE is so necessary because if this shot lands, that's game over. Biz barely alive. The Harmony Orb keeps them topped up since there's no follow-up shot. Salty, low, overtime. Can they touch it? They don't get there in time. The slide is late and Salty is slept.
And that was all because of an anti-nade onto Salty that forced him out of the fight because there was no Kiriko anymore. So they forced out the Doomfist, because if the Doomfist stays there, he had no cooldowns, right? Salty had no cooldowns. I had already used the block earlier, so had to get out, and just those cooldowns were not rotated back fast enough for them to get back onto that point. So really nicely placed anti-nade completely breaks that fight for Good Boys as they try to continue to stall. I mean, they do get it relatively far considering how on the back foot they looked for a lot of that. There were like the 1 or 2 fights that they really kind of like took control, especially on first with that dive, but second was really hard until, you know, a little bit of over aggression, I'll call it, from Amplify. But Good Boys probably happy with how far they got it despite everything.
And now the mark has been set. Amplify know exactly where they have to take this to be able to close this out with a 3-0 and continue their redemption fight in this lower bracket. Defensively, you can see that there's going to be the Lucio play partnered with this. Not surprising to have that mobility. Still going to stick with Salty on the Doomfist. But Biz, though, going to go for the Sojourn here to keep this high ground and look for those necessary shots to try and counteract, specifically, which I would believe that PGE is going to keep this Widow.
I mean, it's kind of not terrible to dive in with this, like, Sojourn. We saw it in our previous series where you can kind of dive onto this high ground here and really make a difference alongside something like the Doomfist. As Amplify just going to be using that Symmetra and teleporting onto that high ground kind of foreground. But that's a big punch to start things off here and a lot of disruption caused. But Salty, is he going to be able to get out here? Oh, that spear
was almost about to get out. Buddy says no, 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 as they're able to capitalize on this, cleaning it up, and now going to force back Good Boys all the way to that doorway, and will lose all advantage on the high ground.
You know, it's a good attempt there from Good Boys starting things out, but just weren't able to finish it off. As Salty going to try and duel for this high ground, but there's just no way that Doomfist beats Orisa in this 1v1 on the high ground. It's almost nigh impossible. As Zeb actually is going to go all the way to the back line for the high ground and finds the Ana and the Sojourn is anti, but I mean still relatively healthy, and the Pylon does a great job of killing up too.
Tanky boy indeed, gonna keep them both in that archway, but there's still contention happening elsewhere. Salty down below, since they do have Zeb up front, there's no real way to contest against it, and Thunder comes in onto PGE.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about if you're gonna play Orisa this aggressively against this like dive-esque composition from Good Boys can just go to the cart and just say, sure, if you want to put your Orisa all the way back there, that's totally fine with us, but they're having a hard time taking down this Orisa. They finally should be able to do so, especially with Buddy going down, but it's traded back out for Thunder. Their top, I don't think there's a way to get back into this one, and Good Boys putting up a pretty decent defense here.
And there's
Danny is in.
Oh, Danny, boy, sorry, friendo. I mean, there's just so much sustainability from the Iliari where she can just keep them going in those small rooms, and that pylon unchecked really is a lot of healing.
Yeah, I mean, you can see also Amplify just putting PG onto this Soldier 76 now, wanting just a little bit more of that survivability against something like this heavy dive composition, right, where you could run away from that dive, and Salty has to use all of his cooldowns defensively to get out of there, so now this is a moment where they can go aggressive, and there's a big stick on the Pascal.
Yep, losing that support. There's an attempt to return, but Thunder can't get nearly as much value with it. Salty in the server room, bypassing and attempting to go for the health back to get a re-engagement opportunity, but you're walking into the window, and that is going to be a big boost of damage.
Yeah, really
Amplify.
good peel.
Gonna clean it up now, making sure with the ultimate, Danny coming in strong with Captive Sun, and this is now 4 minutes on the time bank.
It's on the time bank. Amplify just gonna try and move up as quickly as they can to try and get this high ground available to them. Good Boys have some ultimates to work with. Thunder getting extremely low there, has to recall very early, but we'll have it most likely for this next fight, as now it's going to be about Good Boys finding a way to take these high ground angles and potentially get back in, but here comes Captive Sun.
Is there any denial? Zeb has been hit. Spear spins the remaining damage, and no follow-through. Sunstruck can't be procced. Biz progressing forward with that rail shot, manages to get PGE and outmaneuvers the legs. And looks for potentially a second, has another charge onto it, can't quite find the dome just yet. Goes for tap, but a nice dash to elude. And you've got Amplify still holding. The payload has been ceased for the moment as Salty finds that shutdown onto Zeb.
Amplify do have control of this high ground, but eventually I think Good Boys should be able to take him off of it, especially with Salty still here. And nice anti. I mean, that's going to be disastrous for Amplify.
Big defensive hold here, and again, finding themselves in a position of where they can really draw some of the time bank down.
And I'm really loving the decision of the Ana on the defensive end because you have really good angles to play around. You can play relatively safely on the back line. You can throw some nades in, get some value that way. And there's not really a huge threat of being taken down, but Pascal gets taken down early, and that's some healing loss, but New Fist is going to get nanoed here.
Tap has been very successful with these pulse bombs. That's the second time we've seen it now. And again, Thunder denied a second time. Nice pull for the Terror Surge. Gets the damage just before the drop. Locks them into the corner. But the pylon is keeping them going. Slept to buy the time. And that's going to give agency now for Noctis to escape and eludes the second Javelin.
Pascal goes down too. Tap is starting to clean up this fight right now with a 4K, I think, from Tap. And is there a way for Good Boys to get back onto this point? Biz desperately switching over to the legs. Salty is here, so there is a potential.
Diving forward, Salty, half health already. Nice position back, and it gets Tap. Conceded with only 5 meters to go. PGE and Zeb working wonders through this, despite it being an early opportunity for Good Boys. They stem the bleeding again and manage to come through, and now are in the final stretch with a team kill.
And I mean, it was a good idea from Salty, and the fact that he got the pick early really thought that it made it seem like they could change that one back, but Amplify, the positioning was just too much for Good Boys to deal with, right? Soldier 76 on the high ground like that, no one to really contest, completely annihilated that team fight, and Thunda's actually gone over to the Echo here just to offer some more burst potential and assassination potential against the Horse, but with PGE on the Soldier 76, and with the Tac Visor coming in soon, Thunda has to play very carefully.
Ooh, Tap. Happy feet right now. Comes in with the clip. Knocks him out. Sends him home. 2 minutes and 20 seconds now. And the ultimate's still a stack full. PGE underneath. They need to be very careful as they're hit by the Bionade, but Good Boys are in a very dangerous position.
I mean, I don't know how Good Boys come back in. The Biz is luckily going to have Blizzard. That should be something that they could maybe use to win this one. Salty needs to get this meter strike in time, but here comes the Tac Visor.
Gets the explosion off the wall just behind, knocking them away. There is one takedown at least for Good Boys, but the Terror Surge zoning them back, knocking them away as you've got a massive amount of damage onto Salty, who's getting greatly healed through. Javelin pushes him back. Biz is close. No ultimates available. It is only Noctis close to the nano boost. It is under 1 meter. The final moments now for Amplify are near. Thunder swapping, gets a pick, has the range, no contention. The Javelin and Spear Spinner constantly causing harassment to Salty, who now has the nano, even gives the wave. They know that they can't take it, and they do have one last chance to hold on to this.
Salty's able to get out of there, but a very high committance for Good Boys into that fight. Amplify did use a lot in their own right, but the Captive Sun available here for Danny seems like it could be the difference maker here. Thunda on this Widowmaker finally has someone to contest him in PGE, but with only a minute left, there's potentially 2 fights left. Actually, they found Noctis!
They don't get the kill, though. They're gonna cycle back. Noctis playing forward, eluding the damage, but then gets picked up. PGE swaps themselves onto the Widow to find a shot onto Salty, capitalizing on this moment. Amplify will be the only team across the day that gets a 3-0 live on broadcast, and they have done it in quite a style.
Yeah, finishing it out before 1 a.m. my time here on the East Coast, but Amplify take a 3-0. Danny with the play of the game on the Iliari. And I mean, I think that this was a matchup where we saw a lot of, like, the long-range hit scan have value, but also I think that the Zeb deserves a ton of credit for this Orisa play. I think Orisa, we even saw, like, how important Orisa is in this matchup and how sustainable she is, especially with the amount of healing that you can have between a Baptiste and between an Iliari. It's so hard to work with, and Amplify really benefited from the use of this Orisa, especially against what Salty was doing on this Doomfist. I can't tell you how many times I saw Salty go down just by the virtue of Orisa either spear spinning him away into the sights of the enemy team, or sights of his team, or just javelins hitting Pager. Like, this was a great performance from Zeb.
And again, it really comes down to a combination of, yes, the buffs are here, but just understanding this new mechanism of how Orisa can be so dominant. I mean, you saw it when it came to the Orisa versus Sojourn in Iliari on the high ground, just 1v2ing. Yeah,
Zeb
like,
is
this
like
is
1v4. I mean, it's two because there's an Iliari like right here, but it's still like, I mean, just standing in front of here, hitting every cooldown as possible. Yes, the nano eventually like breaks it, but I mean, there, a spear right there. You see Salty gets knocked back immediately during that fight. It's because there's a spear from Zeb. I mean, this was again, if someone is going to be playing Doomfist into you in an Orisa meta, those spears got to hit pay dirt, and boy, was Zeb hitting them.
Major props as we do compliment Amplify in the way that they've played. Again, fond farewell to Good Boys as they have put up a valiant effort leading into this playoffs. They will be sent home packing for now and only get to watch from the arena sidelines as we have had a massive amount of stellar Overwatch today, and I can tell you right now, I'm just the happiest camper in the world. I know for multiple reasons, but you know, Orisa, of course, as you mentioned at the top of the broadcast for us. But
yeah, don't play, don't hit.
Hey, there's other good things. There's other good things. Just because that's the majority of the pie chart doesn't mean that it's not. But you know, friend, I mean, again, honestly, for what we've seen, this one still a good one all in all. Even though it says a 3-0, there was still some great opportunity for those Doomfist supporters out there, because Salty really does put on a show. Like, that's always something that's really spectacular to watch. Like, when you're talking about a hero that you don't really get to see that much just because of, you know, the way that it fits within the meta and it's not as viable, like, Salty really does put on a show with it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, Salty had his moments, and like some of the other members of like Good Boys did as well. Thunda, I think, had his moments, but it's just so hard to pilot Doomfist. As good as Salty is, I mean, piloting it against all of the anti-Doomfist kind of mechanics that are in the game right now, it's just very hard, and it's not, it's not a reflection on Salty's play as a Doomfist player in any means, but it's just the hero matchups don't seem to be working. So unfortunately for Good Boys, they end up going home, but Amplify take a 3-0 here and will be moving through that losers bracket.
Absolutely. And we're going to be heading to a short break before getting into our final interview of the day. So don't go anywhere, friends, because we're curious to see how they're feeling moving forward.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that Tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
Why, hi, friends. We're back. We have the chance to interview one of the lovely individuals that have just come from the victorious team of Amplify. And yes, it is going to be Danny here with us. So how you, or no, Derpy,
Yep,
correction,
Danny,
Derpy.
yep.
No, you, no, it's okay. It's the streamer mode. I only see like the one letter at the start, so you're totally fine.
It's all good.
But, yes.
How much do you love Alari? You know, what are your thoughts on the hero?
Alari, I mean, if you can aim, then you can play Alari pretty well, I guess. I mean, that's why they put DPS players on it.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's just a good hero for people that can only aim and don't have much game sense.
It's a shooter hero, like Joel was saying, it's a shooter hero.
Yeah, very similar to Widowmaker, yep.
Okay. Okay, so talk me through a little bit about this series, because Good Boys, it feels like there was an identity that they had where it's like Doomfist, right? So, obviously Salty, I think, is, you know, considered to be probably one of the best Doomfists that they have, and even though there's a lot of anti-Doomfist kind of tech in the meta right now, still pilots it pretty well. Was there a game plan going into this where it's like, we need to kind of focus down Salty as like the main person to deal with on this Good Boys team?
I mean, to be honest, there wasn't much of a game plan. Most of the team was pretty tired going into the match. I believe one of our players was, it's like 7 a.m. for him. So we'd have a very clear game plan. However, I made sure to keep my team in track as the coach, kind of reminded them of their goals. But I wouldn't say that targeting Salty was one of our game plans, no.
Okay, so then, you know, as coach, you know, in moments like these, especially when there's this kind of weight and strain that can come through not only just from competitive matches, but also, you know, different time zones and everything, what is it that you do that kind of helps, you know, keep everybody on track, making sure that they're in the right mental state if things do kind of go a little bit of awry? I mean, right now you had a 3-0, so it was very, very well performed as a whole, but like, what are those moments look like when they do start to weigh heavy?
Yeah, so as the coach, I just make sure my team is mentally prepared, because that's a big factor. So since we had a long break, we had like 2.5 hours. What I did was an hour before the match, I made sure my players were all in the voice channel. They had something to eat, they had something to drink, and they were just ready for the match. And then we VOD reviewed for a little bit. We had a little bit of a warm-up. Shout out to Timeless Obsidian for the warm-up. 30 minutes before our second match. Very helpful because we hadn't played in a while. But yeah, just making sure my players were just getting used to playing the game again and kind of getting their aim and their brains going.
So I have a question. For you. Are you a Sigma truther in this meta or no? Because I feel like we saw Zeb kind of just walk over that matchup. Like, what are your thoughts on? I mean, Orisa seems like incredibly strong right now, but do you think like there are tanks that like have viability besides her? Because it felt like Zeb like really played it extremely well to the point where like there didn't need to be much else.
No, yeah, I mean, I think Sigma's probably the best counter to Orisa, but as you mentioned, Zeb, I think the best Orisa and Contenders probably in the world, to be honest. So, not a big issue for him. Yeah. But yeah, I think if there's one hero that countered Orisa, there aren't too many of those, but if there's one hero, it would definitely be Sigma, probably, yeah.
All right, so now looking at, you know, those factors and how things are still kind of shaking up, me and Kenobi, along with all the other casters and those probably watching, still trying to see what that solidified change is going to look like going forward and against those opponents that you have ahead of you. What's the mindset that you kind of tell them, again, from that coaching perspective? You talked a little bit about how the preparation and what you do to go into it, but now let's look at the overarching when you're, you know, in this moment of having to fight back the lower bracket. Like, what does that communication look like and how to play?
Yeah, I mean, we're losing. I mean, to be honest, I just tell my players I don't really believe in them, and that they have to prove me wrong. I just tell them to prove me wrong, and if they can, then they do, and if they don't, then, I mean, I didn't have very high expectations to begin with. Yeah, that's the mindset. Just going each match, we're losing.
Okay.
So it's like a reverse psychology thing where it's like there's no pressure because I wasn't expecting a lot, so like, you know, that takes the pressure off of them.
Yeah.
That's okay. I see the philosophy there. I
gotta be honest, I was so not ready for that because you talked about how you get their food and their drink, and we did some bond reviews. Everything was so good, and then now you go like 180 on the other end of the bell curve. Like, nah, y'all bad.
No, I mean, as a coach, I take very good care of my players. I'm very good at my job, but my players aren't very good at their job. So I expect to lose. I expect to lose, to be honest with you.
I mean, if you just have no expectations, then you can never be disappointed.
Exactly.
Like so. Okay, okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down there. Okay, I got you.
Now that we've been able to clarify, I think we're all picking it up. The shambles at which what's going to unfold. No, but overall, it was a amazing performance by the team. Everything so far has been great to watch. Looking forward to continue seeing them perform as they move through and fight their way back into this. So thank you so very much for your time. I really, truly do appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of your night. And for all of them, especially the one with the 7 a.m., I think you said get some rest
tell Tap to go to bed.
A day nap.
I'll Tap to go to bed.
Or a day nap.
Yeah, it's actually Buddy. It's actually Buddy who's...
Oh, Buddy? Oh,
Yeah.
Tap's okay. Tap, I thought.
I think Tap's in America right now.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, my friend.
you,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Yep, good night.
Thank you.
Oh, it's too funny. This is reverse psychology is strong.
That's a really, really interesting coaching philosophy that I've never heard before. Caught me off guard, but it was really funny. I mean, they 3-0'd, so maybe there's something to it. Who knows?
Watch, you see all the other coaches like, yeah, me insult my players? Oh, I'm gonna do that. But we can take a look at how the day unfolded. The only match of the day that really didn't go, I mean, some of the distance or all of the distance, really. 0-3 on broadcast. Everything else had gone